What's going on? We're live? All right. Word. Welcome back to the Artifakt Hour. This is our experimental paint cast. I call it a paint cast. It's like a podcast where we just live paint and we just talk about shit and talk about life and whatever comes up. So um, today is definitely an awesome session because I'm working on this 10-foot canvas, and as you can see, it's you know it's it's a big one. I think this is the biggest canvas I've ever done. So I'm a couple days into it right now. This is a commission for a really good friend of mine. He's a super big Deadhead. He's a Grateful Dead fan. It is an understatement. So he really wanted like a super sick custom piece, but it's kind of just me doing my thing. I mean, he's giving me creative freedom and license here. But he definitely gave me a little direction with it as well. So we're just gonna get into it. Um, where I'm at right now is on this piece. I've done a bunch of spray paint layers and backgrounds. I've done like these spacey kind of night and day sort of symmetrical kind of concept here. So I've done like a lot of my backgrounds with spray paint, and right now I'm kind of sketching out some flowers and stuff that I'm going to put in the foreground where this whole pyramid situation is. And then the skull and the wings are obviously the subject, so they're going to kind of get rendered last. You tend to work these paintings from like the back to the background, like the furthest distance perspective wise, and then do the foreground last. I mean, I kind of jump around, so like that's why I'm rendering these flowers now. But yeah. So anyways, so yeah, we got me. My name's Ryan. I'm the artist most of the time here. We got Tom. He's our producer. He's behind the cameras, the man who's running things, making this paintcast happen. Also got Brian Soldano in the background over here doing his thing. So yeah, we're it's not just me here, um, but I am kind of you know holding it down with the brush and the chalk, so to speak, at this point. So I'm just throwing in these roses like super loose here, because I'm gonna come back and clean these up. Uh, and I've been painting a lot of roses, honestly. Like every piece, I feel like last week's paint cast, we did a rose piece that I actually finished and posted a couple days ago. So if you follow Artifact Studios on Instagram or you follow me, um, my Instagram will post that in the comments. But um, we'll always post up the finished, paintings once they're complete. Like this one's obviously going to take a little longer, but my goal is to be able to push out these paintings and have a finished product and like really like streamline the process of creating a painting, because it's almost like paintings aren't even really published, or they're not really truly finished until they're posted, right? Because it's like pics or it didn't happen. Like if I finish paintings all the time and I don't post them and nobody knows about them, so you're not really getting like the shine. And by the time I actually post something, if it's already been done, like it's kind of like I've moved on from it, so I'm trying to get more like present in the moment by putting out pieces like right as I create them, um I'm starting to catch up. I've definitely like been super productive from just having this paint cast in general. um so that's been a positive thing. But like I've been able to finish a lot more artwork than I normally do, in a shorter amount of time. So thank you for showing up and viewing this and engaging with us, because that helps me get motivated to create cool stuff, and then you get more visual artwork into your life, and uh, you know it goes around and around and around. So Inspiration is contagious, I guess. Um, so yeah, I'm looking at a reference here on my phone. I'll just be totally like transparent that usually I print my references or I have some physical copy of it, but I did not do that in this case for this particular section of the piece. Kind of just winging it, but I am looking at stuff at the same time. Um, all artists use reference materials. It's not like a thing to not use references. Um, Mine just happens to be digital on my phone. References are usually something like we send the client because we can kind of work without them. We can freestyle stuff, or most artists should be able to freestyle stuff from your head in a lot of ways. But also, like when you're planning stuff out with a client or like you're going in real deep on a piece, like you want it to be right. So hence why I'm erasing stuff. Like I didn't really like the placement on that rose. I kind of wanted to like bring it in a little more. So um, I just erased it, deleted it, as some will say. But yeah, so resketching these roses out. I'm gonna fill them in with some spray paint colors and then render them with a little bit of airbrush and some markers and brush paint, stuff like that. So um, it will get more exciting. Um, but yeah, like this painting's gonna be, it's a multi-layer process. It's something with mixed media or this particular style of art. Um, you just use whatever makes the most sense for like getting from point A to point B. So it's really about efficiency in my book. Like, what is the thing that's gonna get me the result that I'm looking for, like quick and fast without too much of a mess and too much of a headache. And certain mediums like spray paint allows me to fill in and do a lot of this spacey, like dusty, cloudy nebula effects that I have all over here. Like pretty consistently. I couldn't pull that off with other mediums. I just simply couldn't. It would take too long to. So yeah. Plus, it's cool. It's badass. It's like it's spray paint's dust. So why not? It's perfect for this kind of style of painting, like space dust. That's kind of what you want. So all right, put the phones away. No more references. Now we're just gonna paint. Sorry I had to draw on camera. There's nothing more boring than drawing. Um, Painting's obviously a lot more fun to watch visually. So the spray paint I'm using for those who are new to this, Montana makes a water-based spray paint that basically allows me to spray paint indoors without a mask with no fumes. Basically turns the spray paint into an airbrush. It's like having an acrylic paint inside your can. So that's what I'm using here. We sell this at our shop at Artifakt. Um, it's not cheap, but it is really good quality. And when you're doing projects inside like this in the winter, it's a game changer. So all right, so I got a couple colors of that. Just got to shake them up. This stuff, because it's water based, it is prone to dripping more than your average spray paint. Also, for those who are interested, what kind of caps I'm using, these are banana caps. I call them banana caps. They're really called universal caps, but they are like one of the thinnest cap that has the most sharpest, like chisel kind of edge to it. It's almost like the spray pattern is a square. Like it creates this square, sharp kind of dot that I think is like ideal for what I'm trying to do. So what I do in the beginning is I really just like test my can out on the wall always to get it like, spraying well before I actually apply it to the physical surface because like I don't want it to spit all over the canvas. Like this is like really detailed spray paint work and I've already done a lot of work, so I'm not at a point where I want to mess anything up that I've already done. Because I'm painting on top of this like really lovely background. So I'm going to show you some techniques for pulling this off and making it look clean. And how do I paint like crispy roses? Okay, well, I'm going to use a bit of a straight edge just to get certain edges that I want to be a little cleaner than others. And I'm also gonna just freehand it and color it in. So this is oil board. I've cut like a funky shape for it. I'm gonna cut it in whatever kind of like directions or shapes that I really need to kind of block out certain areas. Um, so yeah. Um, so as I'm painting these roses, I'm really painting right over my chalk, and I'm really just like the goal right here is really just to block out those colors. I don't really want to go too thick, but I really just want to like block out where the rose actually is. And if I really need it, this little, you know, piece of oil board comes in handy because I can just kind of like, carve out like the little edge or the little shape of the petal where the petal meets the background. And it's kind of like risk free. I don't have to like worry too much about the overspray. You can do it freehand, but like that kind of like requires a little more skill, like skill, and just it's a little tougher to navigate, like, and you're kind of just certain directions or angles like can be tougher than others depending if you're righty or lefty. Um but like for instance, like this top edge, I don't really I feel like I'm spraying down into it, so I'd rather just use this edge just to be safe. So like it's using a straight edge. It's not like using a stencil where it's in one fixed spot and you're spraying it and then you're lifting it up. I'm kind of using it with my opposite hand, my dominant hand. I'm righty, so with my left hand, I'm using this to kind of like be a shield. But the point of this of is I'm always spraying to catch my overspray. It's like it's a shield. But the point is you got to also, and I don't care if they drip. Like I kind of want a little bit of that effect in it anyways. Um, but one of the things that I have to do is like, by using this and spraying away into the rose, you're spraying into the center as opposed to spraying outward, which is going to give you overspray, which is not what we want. Um, So I've kind of filled these in. It's also good to use this heat gun just to dry some of this. And they're not really looking like much. These roses are just kind of like, again, when you're filling things in, you're really just trying to block out color. You're not too concerned about like you're really creating shapes and working with the shape of what it is that you're coloring in, and you're not too concerned with what it looks like just yet. With the water-based paint, I definitely got to go a little lighter to prevent it from dripping too much. So that's the one downside. It's water-based. It takes longer to dry when it's cold, or when you lay it on too heavy. It's just it's water. It's what it does. It drips. Um, so spray paint, sometimes this can take two coats just to before it builds up and has coverage, which means it's covering over what's behind it. All right, word. I got a couple roses in there. Let me pop a couple stems. So I'm gonna grab some green. Same stuff, water based. This is like got a bunch of different color varieties. I think we have like 50 different colors. Um, so let's see. I'm also gonna hit this with airbrush at some point. And first I'm just doing these stems. Little dark green. So what's dope about this water-based paint is you can also mix it with regular brushes. So at some point, like I can basically spray this in a cup and use a regular brush. So I don't really have to like mix paint down to match the same color as the spray paint. Allows me to switch in between the two mediums from like brush to can, basically. which is kind of dope and makes like your workflow a little more seamless. Um, womp womp womp. So right now I'm doing green. I'm doing like the little leaves coming off the rose. I kind of want to like change these up a little bit because like my initial rendering was like, it was okay, but the painting's kind of changed, and I kind of want to do it a little differently. Um, that's natural. It's normal. Like you come in with a reference, but then it tends to evolve as it goes, as it should. A good painting should like change and evolve over time. All right. Cha-cha-cha. So I call the hair dryer the save button. Deleting. You got the delete button. Well, this is the save point. It's when you're like you lock it in. Just because, like I said, water-based paint, it's like finicky. Like it doesn't wanna dry. It wants to like drip into a puddly mess. So you just got to be like light and easy with it, and not go too crazy at first. And I think some people like they try to lay it on heavy the way regular spray paint is, and it's just not like that. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm spraying this in the cup. So that gives me now this little like palette that I can dip a brush in and kind of give myself more fine detail on some of the tips over here of these petals, these leaves to the roses. Um, just some of the stems and some of that stuff. It's like so fine and detailed that like I really can only do so much justice with the can. So it's nice to just break out a brush for certain sections. And this extra chalk around here, I'll end up just erasing. So that's kind of a, yeah, I'll delete it exactly.
Spray something again real quick, right? So I can put a video up.
So adding a little light green.
Cool.
And we can also like, so with the spray paint, the cool part about water base is that you can also delete or set back some of the, like when I spray that like super thick on there, that light green, if I want to like dial it back or spread it out a little bit, I just add a little water into it and suddenly it's like brushable. So you can't do that with oil-based spray paint. It gets all sticky and whatever. You have like a half a second where you can like wipe some paint away, or like you can manipulate the spray paint with your finger or brush or something. Like you can spray it into a cup and try to paint with it, but it dries so quickly that it just sticks to everything, and it doesn't become like, it's not like workable. Whereas this water-based stuff is workable, almost to a fault. Like, see, now I'm pulling some of the red through because the water, that red still isn't dry, so it's the water's activating that like again. So you really gotta like let it dry longer before you start messing around with it. Um, in certain cases, but for here, I'm just kind of like fucking around. Um, so I'm gonna let that dry. Let these roses, like the thing about water based is you kind of got to bounce around a lot, because if you're in one spot, like you'll just keep working it and it's not dry yet. So realistically, I got to let that dry before I can kind of like take some of this chalk off or whatever. Um, but I can work the edge a little more of these roses, these petals. And sorry if I'm not always like saying stuff. Like sometimes I'm really focused in on what I'm actually doing so that I don't like mess up like my super important painting. And like ultimately the painting itself and the work and the piece is more important than me entertaining you with my words. So if I go dead silent, that means I'm just like I'm in focus mode, you know. I'm trying to delicately put spray paint from this can in the shape in these weird shapes that maybe look like a thing, you know, if I do it like enough times. So yeah, it's like we make it look relaxed and easy, but it's never easy. Like it's always as just as hard as it's ever been. You just do it more and more until you're you're getting like consistent results from what you're trying to do. Um, and right now, I've been I'm finding this painting to be like a combination of a lot of different paintings that I've been doing over the last couple of years. I kind of taken well, first off, I've been doing pyramid paintings for like 10 years at least. I have a painting from 2012 that I did that was a pyramid piece. Um, and you know, I was looking at a lot of my older work, and it has like a lot of motifs that are kind of similar here. You know, I mean, skulls have always been a thing. Um, the pyramids, obviously, space has been like a huge theme with me. Um, I think the idea of life and death, the idea of like rebirth, um, that kind of stuff has been a huge theme.
Yeah,
So
Jeremy Lou Allen was asking what's the meaning of this behind this piece,
all right,
or the backstory. He said.
so let's get into the backstory on the piece. Okay, cool. So um, it's taking from some of the motifs or themes or concepts from the music of the Grateful Dead. So that is number one, a huge influence of this piece. Number two, for me personally, there's definitely like some influences of psychedelics, and my interpretation of said experiences. Number two, number three, um, is like the influences are definitely, um, nature, but also like just like the general idea of mysticism. So this one's very much infused with like the idea of like like a like duality in the universe, and the idea of like our natural world and then like maybe a spiritual world, so like a physical plane and then like an astral plane, right? So this is sort of like the portal like you're passing through, so to speak. So this kind of center point, the waterfall, with the skull and the wings, um is like an idea of like the endless fountain. It's like there's a Grateful Dead song called Ripple, and the lyric goes, "Let it be known, there is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men." So like that's like the idea of like an endless stream of, you know the fountain of youth. It's like the an endless stream of source, if you will, source energy, spirit energy that is like older than time, that's been flowing forever. It just flows and flows and flows, and you know, um, it goes deep. I kind of like at some point I think it's important to kind of let the interpretations be subjective. Like I don't like to push it further than saying, well, it's this, because this is art. You know, this is surrealism. This is the point of visionary art is to illustrate things that can't be explained. So in that sense, like, you know, it's up to you, right? But that is the backstory on the piece. Like, I took some of the influence of, yeah, Grateful Dead artwork and like artists who had come before me, who have illustrated, you know, interpretations of the Dead's music. Like, there's a lot of really good artists. Like, I mean, that's what really drew me to that scene in a big way, as much as the music did. It was really the artwork, that like the fan art that I always loved the most, and I loved how fans could just get involved by making artwork. Like, there was a thing back when like you had to mail in for your tickets, and there was contests to see who could do the best fan mail art, like on the actual envelope that they mailed in, and it was super impressive. But like stuff like that where it was engaging, like they're a band who actually engaged with their audience in like in a creative way. Like, they allowed people to sell their band logos on merchandise at their shows and not charge them anything, any type of royalty or anything like that. Like, that's unheard of and unprecedented, and no one really ever did that. You know, like, I really think that like that they really pioneered like open source artwork, with their brand, you know, and that's what helped them blow up in this huge way. Because what would they be without all the like the shakedown in the parking lot? Like that's just so much a part of what the Grateful Dead is. It's like you're in the Grateful Dead. Like, if you're part of it, like you're like if you're a fan, like in the audience, it's like you're in the band. Like, it's like one of these things that it's like their music really transcends outside of just like their arrangement of, like, you know, a group of musicians. Like, it really becomes this, like, you know, ephemeral thing beyond just, you know, you know, like I said, like a record or a concert or like a band or anything like that. It's like it's very much like a phenomenon of sorts. And so I've always been fascinated about that, like just the movement in general. Um, and I've also just like been honored to, at times in my life, contribute my interpretations of the music, or my like understanding of what my experiences told me about all of it and what it meant to me, in my own way. And I feel really like, you know, sometimes you feel like it's all been said, but I don't really think so with this one. Like, I had a hard time, you know, I'm like, oh man, it's all been done, like, you know, like, and it's like, nah, dude, it's still being said and still being told. And it's like, I'm blessed with my chance, every chance that I have to like contribute or add to the legacy or a conversation of like a particular, you know, phenomena, like the Dead. Like, I think it's like it's a big thing. Like, it's like it's a big Pandora's box to open, is to like dive into these type of like deeper concepts. And I mean, that's what I think that music is really all about. Like, it helps unlock something inside. Like, I you know, again, to each their own. Um, but so right now, what I'm doing is I switched over to the airbrush. I got this super sweet a- Iwata airbrush right here. I guess we got another question, but yeah, this is the tool I'm using, Iwata. It's a Japanese airbrush. You can get them on Amazon. But yeah, anyways, what's
Yeah,
good?
Batchez says, sick painting. Is this on canvas?
Yes, sir. Hey, Batches. Thanks for tuning in, my man. Yes, this is all on stretched canvas right here. So I just stretched it and stapled it directly to the wall. Um, and I measured it out and cut it beforehand. So the size, the final size, is going to be stretched to 10 feet by 3 feet. So it's pretty big. Like, honestly, it's the biggest canvas I've ever done. So I'm not sure what's going to happen when we stretch this. It's going to be kind of crazy. but I'm gonna have to build out a frame like with stretcher bars, and then stretch the canvas here at the studio, and then I'm gonna have to like get a big truck to put it in to bring it to its home because it's way too big to like fit in any kind of car or anything. So yeah, it's gonna be a process. Um, but we're not there yet. We're not gonna worry about it. We're just having fun painting. Um, so I'm using this airbrush to kind of like lay in little shadows and stuff and shading here. Um, as you can see, it's like really effective and just softly kind of like shading some of these roses and kind of giving more like depth and dimension to all of this. Um, that like a spray can just couldn't get. So it's kind of like having a mini spray can, but with a lot more maintenance. Um, that's for sure. My airbrush is honestly acting up a little bit. I've been kind of using it a lot. I wonder if it's the paint or the airbrush. But as you can see, I get like super crispy tight lines like that. So I can kind of have this dramatic spray paint effect. But I can never get that like with amount of detail out of a can. Like it's just crazy. Um, and also if you pull it back, you can kind of get like a wider, wider angle. Tom, can you see that like reasonably? Cool. I just feel like some of that detail is like so like tiny. It's like hard to even see.
Yeah, we can get a close up.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit, like adding all this in, but it kind of it feels right to like work on a little bit of a detailed section because I've been kind of just doing backgrounds up until this point. So to actually render something is kind of nice. Oop, see, when I try to like do the bigger fills or like the bigger lines, I get like a little bit of spit, which means like the paint either like the gun's a little clogged or the paint's a little thick, and I should strain it. I'm not really sure. I'm just gonna run with it. Like I don't always care so much about being the cleanest, most perfect artist. If you can tell, obviously, I kind of like embrace the chaos a little bit when it comes to like splatters and drips and dust and stuff. Because honestly, like I'm a street artist, I'm a graffiti writer. I've always like been more a fan of like the gritty, textured kind of aesthetic to things. So I tend to keep that in my work, even when I get more into the cleaner canvas stuff. I mean, there's still like an element of the grittiness. All right, so just kind of rendering each layer of each of these roses. I'm kind of loosely drawing them. I'm not committed to it. Like I can always paint over it or repaint it or just like, but by slowly adding these outlines and all this shading, what it's doing is it's creating definition. So it's allowing me to define one leaf from the other, and it's like you create an edge. So it's essentially your line work. But that's what airbrush is great for doing line very soft suggested line work that isn't like too harsh. It's not like, a comic book or anything where it's like a hard line, like all illustrated. It's more like subtle and chill and suggested, hopefully. Not maybe not like that, but it's fine. So that's what's pretty dope about it. Like, so yeah, see how I can just do like those little lines in the rows and stuff. Like, it's perfect for all that kind of like super fine detail. And again, maybe it's hard to like notice all that right now, but from a distance. But once you kind of go over like the whole painting, and I go over all these wings and this skull and all this stuff, it adds layers of realism. Essentially, is kind of what it's doing. Um, so I don't want to get like too caught up on these. I'm just gonna add like a little more outline on the rest of these, and I'll move on to some other section of this painting. But yeah, like I said, this whole paint cast thing has been super productive for us over here as far as just like getting ideas to generate like week to week of like how I can kind of step it up or like just make it different or unique. Like, I mean, we really don't plan any of this. We really just whatever happens to be on the easel or on the wall in this particular time, which happens to be this epic piece. Like, that's like what we're showing. Like, I knew that I was going to be working on this soon and that this was going to line up at the right time, which it did. But in a way, like, things just happen when they happen. Like, and they happen better than you could plan them. Cause, like, I could never, like, if I wanted to, like, plan a piece for this, like, this specific show, like, this is kind of a lot of work just for one little YouTube show. But by giving you sort of this open studio kind of peak, like this is what I would be doing regardless of if you were here or not. Like, so there's very much like I'm not like making like doing this because there's a show or there's like people out there. It's like I'm just doing it because number one, I love doing this. I paint, all the time, almost every day. Um, Number two, it's our livelihood. So we do this. This is a commission. Like somebody is hiring me to make a piece that they're gonna put in their living room. Actually, so this is pretty badass for somebody's living room. Like, you know, um, so I'm pretty hyped that like they were this cool and wanted just me to go all out on something. That doesn't happen every day. Like this is like a very fortunate circumstance and opportunity that I have, and I have a feeling that this painting is gonna like, make the rounds and be seen by certain influential people. So I really want it to be, a gem. Like I really want it to be a certain caliber, I guess. of work that like I don't I'm always trying to outdo myself, like I think that's like the point. Um, but in this case, I'm really finding myself not feeling pressured about it. Like I feel though as though I'm actually painting really at a level that I'm really happy with. Um, because I've been like active and productive and just continuously like staying busy with it, that like now I'm ready to take on more like ambitious like type of projects. So when someone gives me something like this and throws this my way, it's like, all right, bet, like it's on, because like someone's giving me the ability to go as far as I really want to go with a piece. Sometimes I have to back off because I just don't really have like the budget, or I don't really have like the resources or the time, or like the situation just doesn't call for it. It just needs something simple. It doesn't need, not everything has to be the Mona Lisa. Like that's what I always say. It's like when you gotta like walk away sometimes, it's like you might be doing a job and you get super into it, and then all of a sudden you realize like, oh, you're just painting like a sign, or you're painting like something that isn't even necessarily artistic, yet we will naturally treat our work, everything to us is our is art to us. So it's hard to separate that, and you can be like taking too much time on something because you're committed to it or emotionally invested in it, even if it's just like a sign or something that's like not even like personal to you in any sort of way. But this is different. This is kind of like right in the middle. It's hitting all the buttons. It's like it's my style. It's what I love to paint, but it's also something somebody wants, and I'm getting to just go all in. So like, again, it's a fortunate circumstance, and I'm glad that it lined up now while I'm doing this, paint cast, because like it helps me kind of like encapsulate the process a little bit. Because I'm getting like quicker with these things. Like some of the first paintings that when we first started this paint cast, like I said, like there's paintings that I had sat on for like years. Like it took me like one of the last pieces I did took me 5 years to finish from the time I started it to the time I finished it. And that's like way too long. Like that's just like that's just a whole epilogue of like bullshit, like just get the painting. Like, I feel like with paintings, it's like you got to get in and you got to get out. Like you're opening a Pandora's box. You're opening like you literally like opening a portal. If you're gonna, it's like what's that show, Stranger Things? Like they got that portal open and all those things are like coming out of it to the other side or whatever. Like you open up this portal, this creative imagination portal, and then you gotta like get in and get out, because otherwise like the potency of the situation kind of like lessens over time. And I think that like it's all about the present. It's all about pulling from the moment. And like what are you feeling right now? And that's what you're trying to like channel into the piece. So if I let myself fall out of that like momentum and rhythm, well, now I'm in a different place, in a different mood, in a different time. So it's not going to be the same. I'm not the same person anymore. So how am I going to work on it? Like, how am I going to relate to who I was back then when I was making those brushstrokes? Like, I'm not. But this painting has good energy. I mean, I just started this a couple of days ago. I've been chipping away on it slowly. Um, Trying not to jump all over the place right now because I really want to move around, but it's really coming along exactly as it should. Not too fast, not too slow. I'm feeling like I really, as much as I have it planned out, I really don't. Like I'm just kind of making it up right now. I know I was gonna do roses here. I know what color they're gonna be, but the fun part is the small details get to be organic. While the overall thing has like a sense of balance.
Jeremy Lou Allen said, "Roses look dope. Are flowers tough to paint?"
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm whipping them up fast here, so they're definitely pretty loose and quick. Flowers are one of these things that I can't tell if they're hard or easy. Honestly, I think like I've been painting them a lot lately, just because they've just fit into the theme of some of the things that I've been doing. Um, I have my reasons, but I felt like they are able to be used in a lot of scenarios. Like they can be really elegant. They can also be like kind of like more badass or more, they're very symbolic, but they're also like organic. So they mean something, but they're just nature's expression of beauty. So they're really like simple and they're always different. So you can't really like, no two flower paintings are the same. So I find that to be like fun where I can just like kind of pull them into something from my head without really needing to look at a reference. Um, so in that sense, they're easy because I can duplicate them from my brain. But I also think that like they're kind of hard at the same time because they're just very, it's like a delicate thing. Like you got to be kind of like soft with it, but yet they have these like really weird forms, like they're really unusual. So it's like, I don't know. I would say that I've gotten better at them, but I still feel like I have like I have something to learn with it. Like I don't know. I don't know. Sorry for a weird mixed answer. I think they're kind of hard and easy at the same time, depending on, like I'm always trying to make them better. That's the thing. I feel like they could always be better, but um but right now they've been coming to me like pretty regularly. Like I just did those pretty quick. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that was very hard. I mean, that was pretty quick and simple and loose and dirty, but I'm gonna let those kind of flowers just chill and sit for a second, and maybe kind of work some of this skull since I'm like doing the same airbrush here. Tom, should I adjust this? Okay, cool. So I'm going back to the old skull over here because I'm running black paint out of my airbrush right now, and since black is the color. Oh, is it? Okay, cool. Yep. So since black is like a very universal shading color, especially with airbrush, it's my favorite color to airbrush because it's like it's kind of like a shadow. Like you can go really light and just shade things with it and create like more dimension and depth and stuff. So airbrush is dope. Um, but yeah, this is just like a chance for me to like kind of like shade some things, crisp some stuff up, and adding shadows, like I said, it creates depth because I can put stuff, in the background. Like I can hide this pyramid behind the skull a little bit over here, and just give it more like shading and realism and depth to it and stuff. Like yeah, kind of, it helps me like round out certain features too. Like things like these teeth right here are, could be a little rounder, less flat. And so this allows you to like just sort of like softly shade things. Damn, dude, my airbrush definitely needs a little extra TLC because I don't know why it's been spitting. It might be the black paint that I just put in it, but for whatever reason, it's causing. It's like it's not working super great, so I'm only gonna do so much with this before I fix it. But see, I can like kind of carve, create more definition around the skull. Doing my thing. And since this is the Grateful Dead, those who know, it's one of the common symbols is the lightning bolt. So the lightning bolt, it's what's called a 13-point bolt, which means that it has 13 points. So I'm gonna kind of like draw that out so that it's on the money. Because if it's off, you know, it's off. Like it's got to be. Can only be one version of it. Blah, 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 blah.
Kind of got like a Harry Potter going on with the.
Yeah, he's got the Harry Potter scar. You're right. So I'm just making sure I'm doing it right. That's why I'm so quiet at the moment. Oh man. All right. Like I said, this airbrush is giving me some problems. These things are great, but they're definitely finicky when it comes to like the maintenance. And if you don't like, I ran mine, I cleaned it, but I really think it's the paint in here, and I think I didn't strain it correctly. So I'm dealing with like water and chunks of paint like all mixed, and it's not doing so hot. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow, okay. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What? I guess I have to add a few more points. I'm missing some. 1, 2. Sorry, guys. I'm just looking at my reference, making sure I'm counting in my head, making sure I'm intently getting every single point on my 13-point lightning bolt, because God forbid I'll get harassed by wooks online. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool. Number 7.
I was gonna turn that B into the
1,
iris.
2.
Easy. One right above the one I did everything.
8, 9, 10. You made a video of this? Nice. Sweet.
You ever hear Dr. Octagon?
Who?
Dr. Octagon?
I did not know. You need a microphone on your end next time.
I think this is picking it up pretty good. The background over
Is
here.
it? Yeah, I got people. The people here can't hear what you're saying. They can only hear what I'm saying. But it's nicer if you have a mic.
Even sound and dialogue.
Then they can hear both of us. So the airbrush is dope. It allows me to add like all this definition and like little cracks and stuff in the skull and all this little texture. So definitely loving this effect. And basically what I'm doing right now is I'm just creating like lines and patterns on this skull. This isn't really the final coloring. I'm doing it all in neutrals because I'm gonna add a glaze to it. and basically like glaze and color all this in, so it'll be like more like tie-dyed and like trippy. Um, if you see here, I also have a reference, real quick sneak peek. That's like more or less what I'm going for on the colors. More of like a tie-dye kind of situation. So, and I'll fix that tooth because I kind of fucked that one up. Or maybe there's no tooth. Maybe it's missing, you know? Teeth are kind of hard. They're so small, especially with like spray mediums. So this is like still in its infancy. It's like in the spray phase. I'm really shading and putting down, like I said, putting down textures and all types of stuff. Just layers. Um, Once I hit it with the brush, that kind of allows me to clean it up more and do a lot more, just like more finish work, more stuff like to make it, you know, tighter, crisper, um, all that jazz. A lot of the spray stuff, we're really just looking for like values and tones. So I'm trying to just find like, you know, the dark and the light and just balance it all out so it feels, you know, like there's good contrast, everything's well lit. We have a good solid light source. You know, everything, the shading is consistent on everything. That's why when I kind of run the airbrush over all of it, I can kind of go through all these wings and even kind of bring them up to more of a crisp level. Again, I'm not going to go through all that just right now because that would take up the whole paint cast just for me to like do these wings. So realistically, this is a 50-hour painting. Um, you know, something along those lines. So I'm not going to do all of that in, you know, in a 2-hour session. But who knows? Maybe I'll still be working on this next week. Maybe we get like a more of like a finished closing segment, where I can show you like, you know, what it looks like in the end and what and some of the final details and stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. Um, so what I'm loving about this painting is that because this is more on the surrealism end, I can just kind of do whatever. Like there really isn't any rules here. Um, Pyramids can have waterfalls in the middle of them. Why not? Um, there's other certain things that I just don't really have to adhere to. Like when I'm trying to paint something realistic and I want it to look like A, B, and C, you know, there's a right and there's a wrong way. But surrealism allows for a little bit of like wiggle room where, you know, who's to say what you can and can't do. So, you know, if we want wings in a skull floating through space, I mean, bring it on. Like, this is art. Like, the whole point is to do weird stuff, and and I love making stuff look to have a sense of realism in the way in the sense that like it it's rendered well and it's rendered correctly so that it looks like the thing you're trying to make it look like. But after that, it's like, does it have to make sense? No, not necessarily. I think it's honestly better if it doesn't, because then it kind of gives you this like the goal here is to make the weirdest, trippiest shit possible, but then kind of make it look so convincing, just real enough that it catches you for a moment where you have to be like, whoa, man, like I've been there before, dude, you know? Like that's like what I'm going for, at least this effect of like being like, damn, like, you know, and sort of nailing something that resonates that people didn't even know that they've, you know, felt or seen. You know, it's like speaking on a. In this case, it the idea is supposed to touch upon a universal thing because the music applies. You know, the love for the music and the art applies not only to this one particular client who asks for, you know, who is commissioning this painting, but like for a lot of other people, like it's a very like common universal love for this particular um, culture. And so I'm excited for this painting to just like exist in and of itself, like not even necessarily for to be obtained by one particular owner, but like the fact that the art, once it's in existence, it's like it can be viewed by everybody. Like it's a gift to everybody, you know, or anybody who's been into that music or maybe understands where I'm trying to go with it. So yeah, so I'm adding these little rocks in here. I'm actually really hyped on how the water looks. But I just kind of want to build up this little like waterfall situation. So my airbrush is helping me define all like the rocks and all the, you know, the little textures. And I'm kind of making them like rocks on this side, but then they're kind of turning into bricks. So that's like where the surrealism comes into play. Like, is it a pyramid? Is it a valley? Like, well, why can't it be both? Like, could nature make a pyramid? You know, I don't know. That's like, it's kind of interesting to blend it in with natural landscapes, or almost as if like the pyramids have been abandoned. Like, I think of like the pyramids as an abandoned building, right? Like, they really are like the world's longest running bando. So, like, I think of like, you know, how nature reclaims things and how the sands wash up over, you know, the ruins, or like stuff like that's like badass. So I don't know. Artifact, even as a name, lends to the idea of like, I call it like nature's future artifacts. You know, NFA, if you will. Not fade away is like a, you know, a famous Grateful Dead term. And like nature's future artifacts, the idea of like things get reclaimed by nature in the future, like everything does eventually. So, you know, if you have artwork, like you want it to be preserved. And so like there'd be nothing cooler than to see like murals reclaimed by nature. That's what I love about graffiti. Like when you see your piece like fade away or become like part of the landscape, or like vines grow around it, or like just stuff like that. Like it's always just a really cool feeling of like a timelessness of the fact that like, you know, you were here at this one point and now it's been a while and all this time has gone by and all these things have happened, but yet you come back to the spot and the piece was right here the whole time. Like you had held that space for that entire period of time while you weren't even there. You know, your symbol, your sigil, or your, you know, your marking or whatever it is that you left, the mark you made has just been like existing there like on its own. Like I always thought that was like kind of crazy and dope, and you know, gave it some like power in a sense that like, you know, you're leaving your mark and you're marking spots that you're not even at anymore, you know, but they're still a resonance of you, you know, a lingering like presence. Um yeah. So yeah, I'm just throwing in little like bricks every once in a while, as you can see, like adding some little brick situations. Um, One of my interpretations of this painting, just to go a little deeper on the layers, anybody who likes Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, like, come on. The pyramid in the middle, the Dark Side of the Moon album cover is like some of the most iconic artwork. So obviously, we take inspirations from the things that we love. I had to take a little page out of that book. So when I was designing this piece, even though this is a Grateful Dead piece, I also, you know, the Grateful Dead had some amazing artwork from their Egypt tour in 1977, 78 or so. They have some of the craziest, most incredible artwork and pictures, and the fact that they played at the pyramids of Giza was like uh, insane, you know. So I just I always loved that like era of not only the band's music but also where their art was at the time and where like their heads were at, you know? Um, because I think they tapped into something like really, really timeless, and in their sort of search for uh, musical, longevity, building their own pyramid or their own temple, so to speak. So I always found the similarity of like what the band stands for or what music stands for, or just the idea of like, okay, like the pyramids are an art form. That's an architectural masterpiece. It's like, so what stands the test of time is 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 art. Ultimately it's a big badass sculpture. So like you know it kind of has the most longevity, and it's the only thing that we really even understand about Egyptians is their hieroglyphics. Like there's no paper that's going to survive, like there's no, so without that it's like what would we really even know about them without hieroglyphics? Were essentially wall carvings, which is essentially a form of murals or graffiti. It's like it's calligraphy on walls. And so like the whole understanding of an entire like advanced ancient civilization, we're just reading their inscriptions that they carved onto the walls of their building. Like, come on, man. Like, if that doesn't show you what, you know, murals and artwork, like how timeless and just like we think this shit's so new. We think, oh yeah, like, we're graffiti's like it was invented. People always argue about like the origin of graffiti, like who started it first. And people say, "Oh, it happened in the 60s in Philadelphia." Or it happened in New York first. "Oh, no, it happened here first. It happened there." There's always someone that's going to claim, "Oh, Kilroy was here," or there's going to people who want to claim something first, but if you look, there's always somebody older than that. And like I always found it dope that the oldest cave paintings in the world, was a spray paint stencil. It's a stencil of a hand, and somebody used clay pigments and sprayed them. They mixed it in their mouth and sprayed it on their hand to make a stencil of their hand. That's the oldest human marking that they've ever found, was a spray paint stencil. So I always found that hilarious that like people are like, "Oh yeah, like spray paint's like it's some new shit," where it's like, "Nah, dog, it's actually the oldest shit ever." So what are we really doing here? We pick up a tradition and we add our own spin to it and our own interpretations of it. But like, is anything truly original? Or am I like taking a mix of all of my experiences and my influences in creative inspirations, and I'm putting them through a blender, and then out comes my own thing. So that's what I hope that my goal was for this, painting or endeavor when you're embarking on a particular task or a particular subject, like the Grateful Dead. It's hard. Like it's all been done, it's all been said, or so it seems. I think I just had to like step outside of that a little more. Once I was once I started like when I was designing this, I was stressing. I'm not gonna lie, but once I started getting into it and like figuring it out, like it clicked. It clicked like in a super beautiful way that I don't know. It just happened when it did the way it needed to. So um and that's kind of how this band and this music has always been to me. It's like I found it right at the time I really needed it. Um at times when I probably didn't, I didn't have like, a positive sense of community, at least not creatively or like with psychedelics or with, art and all that shit. Like I think it really helped a lot of people like myself find semblance of direction in a pretty weird uh nonsense world that made me feel like I was not alone, so to speak. And it also just, these type of shows and festivals and shakedowns are what like gave me an outlet for my art to sell it in the beginning. So without that, I wouldn't have known where I would have even began, you know? So yeah, so I owe, you know, I have a certain gratitude that I, owe by, and I express by like, again, putting a lot into the artwork whenever I touch this particular subject or like, stuff that's more on the visionary psychedelic kind of wavelength. I think it's important to come correct with it, Um, so, so yeah, I'm still trying to erase this chalk. It's really like giving me issues on the black. So yeah, I kind of have to figure things out as I go too. Like I don't have it all figured out ever. Why would I? Um, But yeah, it's kind of coming along. I'm gonna leave those roses down. I'm gonna leave them alone for a little while. I'm gonna not touch the airbrush for a little while, except just to do a couple little details on the nose, and then I'm gonna put this down for a minute because I really want to move to like different sections of the painting. And since this is like such a big painting, it really is like a lot to cover, like in one quick session. I mean, I have a lot more time left on this. I'd say I'm like kind of at the halfway mark, just because I've like filled in all the colors. It's got decent shading, like backgrounds are done, for the most part. Um, I would say that's like a good like after today or tonight's session, I'll be at like a good like halfway point. My goal is to, like I said, have this complete within the next week. I'm gonna spend some time on it the next couple days, but we'll see. I'm not putting any pressure on it, honestly. Like my client's been super cool, super patient. I want to give it all the time it needs and deserves, but I also don't want to overcook, which is something I've been super adamant about not doing, which is going too far in a painting to where you're just like losing your mind. And you're also overcooking and overworking the painting to where it doesn't really need the level of, you're doing too much. Enough said. All right. Most of that part is like completely covered anyway, so I don't even know why I'm working that so much, but it's okay. Mostly just blacking some of that out so it's a little dark. And that helps to make it more dramatic and faded and have a bit more negative space. Because it should be kind of dramatic and faded behind these roses, like almost like it's set back. The pyramid should feel like it's further behind it and as though the roses are in front of it. Damn, it's really raining outside right now. I can hear the rain so loud off the roof. It's been a noisy paint cast. So many noises, but yet I'm the only one talking. Yeah, so for next week, we're definitely gonna get some more microphones up in this bitch because I need like friends to talk to. Um, I feel like I'm talking to myself sometimes, and I'm going a little crazy. So we definitely need some guests and some guest appearances by our friends here who are hiding silently in the background. and getting away with not having to riff so much. All right, so time to switch it up. I'm gonna work on the left side, Tom. If you want to like set up on this section over here, 'cause I'm kind of good with where the roses are at. I want to leave those and let them just kind of chill. Um, I'd like to work on this section, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break out some stencils. So because we have such small, uh, super small like details on this side, and this is sort of a landscape. I wanna pull
I'll
in
try
like
the second mic for the rain.
what's that? Oh,
Go.
you
Yeah.
turned off the second mic. Got you. Cool. So yeah, so we're gonna pick out a couple different stencils. I got like all these different plant looking stencils. I got some of the pot leaves. I got some plants, some jungle looking plants, some flowers, more flowers, and some mushrooms and a few others. So these are all just like random stencils I got that I'm gonna be popping in here over on the corner. So this is just to make it feel like I basically want to make it feel a little more lush on this section. So and just give it like more layers and depth. So hence where these stencils come into play. Da, 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 da. All right, cool. So more stencils. This one's like a bush. I got a few smaller ones. And what I like to do with these is layer them in like really soft and subtle. So that it kind of creates like just like brush effects that look like there's just plants and bushes and layers of, you know, just plant material. So some of this can come on this side too. And the idea is just to go kind of light and even kind of like dust it up a little bit. And just keep adding like little bits and pieces and layers. And I have a bunch of different ones, so switching it up and creating some variety is also key. And even creating variety of color. So I have a couple different shades of green that I'm going to use, and even like some browns to kind of throw in and dust. Just to create like a little bit of dirt so that the green and stuff shows up nicely. Um, so you'll see like I've kind of done all these textures to create like more of the dirt, and now these plants kind of sit on top of the grass and the dirt. So it's all about doing, when you're doing organic landscapes, you just got to do it in the order of which stuff grows. So like you got to do the dirt and the soil. You got to do the soil first, and the dirt, the grass on top, and the bushes, and then the trees, or the trees, and then the bushes in front. You know, from back to front. Speaking of which, I should add a little bit of these trees coming out here. I just got to grab a different green. This one is not water-based, but I don't have the color in water-based, so we're just going to have to like deal with it. Sorry, Tom. Sorry to fume you out a little bit. I wish I had a stencil for this pine tree situation. I don't really think I do, but I do have one of these. So I can kind of make them look like pine trees, but maybe they're also like weed plants, like just giant ones or something. I mean, that's cool, right? Who says we can't have giant weed plants growing in this, Narnia fictional fantasy landscape? So I'm really just bringing out my trees a little bit, using my straight edge. I don't want to go too crazy here, but I do want to make it more pronounced and have these trees maybe even having like another one right here. So by using the straight edge, I can kind of like cut my line in half. So I can give it these like littler, smaller sections that are a little more forgiving than me just trying to like freehand this tiny tree, you know, which wouldn't even make sense. Um, See how I can get just like crazy small little lines with a spray paint can because I'm just cutting half the line with this straight edge, which again, in certain cases, people would say, well, that's cheating. If you were like trying to do like actual, walls or actual graffiti or this or that, but that's not what we're doing. We're working on a canvas in a studio, so we can do whatever we want to get to point A to point B. Is fair game in my opinion. Um, in this case. All right, make that tree a little taller. Bring it out a little more. So I want it kind of like this forest is like fading here, and it's like offering a bit of perspective because it's getting bigger, and it's like the sun is like as the trail's going off in the distance, it's getting smaller. So that's why the trees on the edge are bigger, and the one in the center is a little smaller. These trees get cut off a little bit because basically like I paint it over the edge. So I paint a little bigger than the actual canvas is going to be. And the reason is just that like when we stretch it, we want it to have what's called a bleed. So it goes over the edge. Like if the canvas ends here, it's got to wrap around the edge of the bars. So we don't want that to just be blank. Like I want that to also have color or maybe just be painted black or something. But usually we finish that up at the end. That's like one of the last steps after the painting itself is actually finished. So just adding these little details, making these trees a little taller. Hopefully you guys are bearing with us. This painting's a little tedious. It's not like gonna come to life like super quick. Like I have to do these like little things before I can really kind of move ahead. Like it's a process, and when you have a certain process, it's like there's steps, and I can like kind of like move around or jump around a little bit, but realistically, like I can only skip so much. Um, so I'm adding a little greenery in here, trying to like brighten this sunshine daydream situation up. So this is going to be like a trippy field of flowers, and I really just need to create more of this greenery to complement said flowers. And starting with putting some of these smaller ones off in the distance, so that they're kind of creating like more of like a green grass situation or a meadow type feel. And by doing them light and layering them over and over and over each other, my goal is to kind of make it feel more organic and less like stencil-ish. Like I don't want it to feel so much like a stamp. I want to kind of fade it back slowly with these techniques. So see how like I can kind of just layer these bushes in to where now it kind of feels like it's a patch of bushes, right? So now like by putting the tree in the back, the mountain's behind the tree, trees in front of the mountain, bushes in front of the tree. Boom, boom, boom. now it kind of you're creating like spatial depth, slowly over time by just like adding in these layers. So, boom. See how simple that was? Super easy. But of course, you got to be able to cut these stencils out. So maybe it's not so easy after all. Now, is it? Um, that was the wind? Hey, see, the wind keeps blowing our doors open. It's kind of crazy out there right now. So,
Yeah, it is windy out there.
there she blows. All
It's
right,
raining
well,
hard.
I've added the bush, but maybe I should add some of these weed plants in there, because I think that would probably fit a little better. For this one, I'm gonna put a little bit of tape to mask off a certain section, which is the edge of this pyramid, because I want that to stay black, and the pyramid's obviously in front of the background. So this is a way to set that background back, or keep that preserved while working this. Add some of that darker green just to switch it up so it's not so bright. Okay. So now we got like a little bit of weed, cannabis in front. Okay, cool, sweet. Definitely digging that a little bit. Man, I kind of feel like I need some on the other side now too. Well, let me keep blocking in these smaller ones till we get to that bigger, badder Larry. So again, just like slowly and steadily and surely, as I build up these plants one at a time, like my little forest starts to come to life. And then if I want to do smaller ones, I can do them all with the brush. Like anything past this point is going to have to get done with more detailed equipment, because I can only do so much with the can. But like the cans get you blocked out. My shading and my like blocking colors is really what uses the most volume of paint. So it's really nice to get that out of the way with the cans, because that is like a time consuming part of the process. And that's why spray paint's great, because it speeds things up. So it's coming together. I don't know how much more of these kind of plants I want to do. I'd like to do more weed plants, but I also need to do like a lot of flowers and stuff in this area. So I don't want to overload it with too much brush and foliage. And it's always good to like just dust things, just to like keep everything sort of like kind of dusty, where it's like it blends. It's a great like blending tool. All right, so sorry, I'm kind of like digging around through stencils right now, trying to figure out what else I can throw in here. Yeah, I mean, these plant stencils I could kind of go for days and days on, just because there's so many like, you can just keep layering them and layering them, um, and then kind of setting it back and adding another layer and setting it back. But this kind of gives me, I try to find the sweet spot here where it's just enough realism, but like not too much. Like it's just a suggestion, but like anything more than that, it's like almost too much. So I want to just be mindful to not completely overdo it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That might be it for the plants right now. I just need like a little something right here. Um, there it is. And now I give it a little dust, dust, dust. Even this part, dust, dust, dust. Just to lighten it up. A little dusting, dusting. And then another thing I like to do is hit him with the old needle cap, which is like my splatter duster situation, which kind of just gives me, again, more dust with the ability to kind of shoot it in a certain direction. That's good. I don't really need too much of that. I really want that to feel more like pollen or something, some like plant dust. But yeah, now I've kind of got some foliage and some texture and some depth in here. Uh, Question is, should I do more? I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell where to kind of stop and where to keep going. But again, there's going to be a lot in front of this because I'm putting some sunflowers on this side to complement the roses on the other side. So I'm not going to like go too crazy in this one section. But one more plant can't hurt. Wondering if I should switch it. Nah, like this. All right, we're in. So now I've kind of got this like, magical kind of garden kind of vibe over here, which is what I was going for. So I'm hyped on that. I still have like a ton more stencils that I want to do in here, but I do want to paint in a lot of the small flowers before I back out and paint the bigger ones because the smaller ones are going to be behind and the bigger ones are going to be in front. So I kind of need to let that sit and figure out the foreground, like some of those elements like these little mushrooms. Like these are some of my favorite stencils right here. These mushroom stencils are super dope. So I'm going to pop like a couple of these in here. But honestly, if I do it right now, I'm going to have to cover them up anyways. So um let's see. Maybe I can just pop one or two in there just for fun. But yeah, most of that's going to get cropped from here. So yeah, whatever. I'll hold off on those. I can't like I said, I can't fit all the juicy stuff into 1 2 hour segment, but don't worry, there will be finished pictures very soon. And
Hour 40, hour 41.
Hour 41. Okay, well, let's start sending it home then because we've been at this for a minute. of like the Grateful Dead. It's like, you're going through a psychedelic experience to have an ego death of sorts, which then puts you through like a rebirth, and sometimes it's painful and messy, but when you're on the other side of it, like you feel like better off, like you appreciate the fact that you went through that experience, even if it wasn't so much comfortable, because like you're a new person on the other side of it. That is my interpretation of like what that means, of what this sort of thing is kind of on. Well, I could keep going forever, and I will, but as far as like my progress on this painting tonight, like I've gotten a couple of things done. I mean, I really painted organic like plant life more than anything. I did a little bit of outlining and some airbrushing and stuff, but realistically, I think I need to kind of like step back and like approach the next couple steps with a lot of focus, and I probably should do certain aspects of the painting should be done when I'm not also talking at the same time. So that being said, just adding a little brown to my rocks here in the water, so they show up a little bit, just like a little highlight to it, So that being said, like I think I'm at a pretty good stopping point. I keep saying that, I could just go forever, which I will. So yeah, we'll see where the rest of this painting goes. I'm gonna call it for now. We're gonna like wrap this show up, so we can close out on a good note, before I like make any like dire mistakes or anything, and say anything crazy. So yeah, I don't know. Tune in next week with us. We usually do the show Tuesdays at 8 p.m. I know today's a Wednesday, but we'll circle back with the conclusion of this piece and see where it goes. I'm super psyched on this already. I hope you are as well. Thank you for joining us and listening to me rant a little bit. Check out Artifakt Studios on Instagram. Check out our website. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. We're dropping this Paintcast. Like I said, it's usually a weekly thing. We're going to try to expand it. We're going to try to have more microphones so Tom over here can talk back, and get some other artists in here so we can collaborate and kind of, pick their brains as well, because there's a lot of dope people out here who make super awesome artwork, and we want to feature them too. It's not all about me all the time. So anyways, much love, everybody. Thanks for watching. Peace.